Hello, I'm continuing my series of Batman reviews, which is something I do every year. I try to do it every January, but this year it ended up being in February. Now, it's been a little over a week since my last review. The reason I waited so long was, originally I was supposed to do this review with my friend Cam, but unfortunately our schedules could never match up. And I feel like I postponed this video for too long, but I'm continuing my series of Batman reviews with Year of the Villain issue number 1, The Joker. Now, this is a one-shot Joker comic that is technically part of a larger story arc called Year of the Villain, but you could easily read this as a standalone. Now, this comic was written by John Carpenter and Anthony Burch. Now, Anthony Burch, I believe, wrote the story for the video game Borderlands 2, but John Carpenter is perhaps best known as a filmmaker, and he's directed films like the original Halloween, Assault on Precinct 13, The Thing, The Fog, Escape from New York, Prince of Darkness, They Live, and many others. John Carpenter is arguably one of the most important genre filmmakers of all time, and I think it's oddly appropriate that he ended up co-writing a Joker comic, because of all of Batman's foes, I feel like the Joker is the one who really can fit into a horror story. And there are several Joker comics I think could definitely classify as horror, like Scott Snyder's Death of the Family, or Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum, a serious house on Serious Earth, even though the Joker's not the only villain in that story. But the Joker is arguably Batman's scariest antagonist. But the plot of Year of the Villain is pretty much all of the inmates at Arkham Asylum bust out. How they bust out, I think, is supposed to tie in with the larger story arc. But basically, Gotham City is in complete chaos, and all of Arkham's inmates are out on the streets. But the story primarily follows the Joker, as well as one of Joker's henchmen, a young boy named Jeremy, who calls himself Six of Hearts. Now, you find out that Jeremy was at Arkham for either killing his father or nearly killing his father with a pan. Now, Jeremy was also being beaten by his father, and Jeremy also has severe psychological issues. But what happens is Jeremy and the Joker end up buying Batman and Robin costumes. The Joker dresses up as Batman and Jeremy dresses up as Robin, and they go out and start fighting crime. Basically, the Joker decides to take up being a hero, but of course he has a very twisted sense of justice. But ultimately, throughout the story, Jeremy comes to realize that the Joker is not crazy. Like, Jeremy has legitimate psychological issues, but the Joker is just evil. And that's ultimately the main point that the story is trying to make, is that not all people with mental illness are evil. Not all people with mental illness are psychopaths. And really, the Joker is not properly insane. Again, he's evil. He enjoys what he's doing. Whereas Jeremy is legitimately sick. He needs psychological help. The Joker can never be helped. But this was a really good comic. I think I would have appreciated it more if it was maybe a limited series or a graphic novel, because there are some things in this comic that I almost wish were expanded upon a little bit more, and I think the story probably would have been better if it was longer. Now, even though this is co-written by John Carpenter, I'm not sure if I would really classify this as horror. I mean, horror is a very wide genre, but I'm not sure if I really saw too many horror elements in this. But this is definitely a dark comedy. Like, there's a lot of humor in this. Like, some of the things that the Joker did and said when he was pretending to be Batman, I thought were absolutely hilarious. Now, one thing I thought was interesting, now this comic was published in October of last year, 2019, and you could tell this was definitely written to sort of capitalize on the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, and there was a lot of ridiculous controversy surrounding that film, because a lot of people felt that movie was incel propaganda, even though if you actually watch the movie, there's nothing like that in the movie whatsoever. But oddly enough, there actually is a scene in this comic involving a bunch of incels, and I'm not sure if maybe that was done to make fun of the controversy surrounding Joker, and it's not like incel propaganda. If anything, the scene is meant to kind of make fun of those kinds of people. But again, I definitely recommend Year of the Villain, the Joker. I just wish it was maybe a little bit longer and a little more fleshed out, and maybe had some more horror elements to it, but overall, I do recommend it. So that was my review, and bye.